Hello and welcome back to Brand Politics on iBrandTV. I'm Beth Joseph, and we're looking at the NSAS protest, restructuring in Nigeria, and the state of the nation at this time. And Dr. Jide Johnson is with us in the studio, a public affairs analyst. He's been helping to lend his voice on the conversations and the activities that have played out within the past couple of weeks in Nigeria. And we've talked about the NSAS protest. And now let's look at another conversation that arose as a result of that same protest. Now, in the middle of the protest, it was clear that it was no longer about the police brutality anymore. It was more like Nigerians were asking for a lot more than that. We started hearing issues of restructuring, for an end to bad governance, for an end to corruption. In some quarters, we even heard Nigerians calling for the resignation of certain public officials. But let's look at the conversation around restructuring. How important is this conversation in the history of Nigeria today?
Nigeria is a federalism on paper, but operates unitary government in practice. Federalism talked about structural division of power, separation of power. In the 1999 Constitution as amended, there are three basic lists. You have the exclusive list, which is only the National Assembly and the federal government that could legislate on it. You have the residual lists, which is only the state government and legislation that could legislate on it. Then you have the concurrent list, which both the federal and the state government could legislate on it. Let me tell you some of the things on the exclusive list, and for you to see that is an anomaly. Rail transportation, for example, telecommunication, power, police. Let's come to the issue of police. Nigeria is the only federalism that has a unitary police, that has a central command. So when people talk about restructuring, they are talking about taking some of the items where only the federal government legislate alone on and giving it back
To the state.
to the state, so that the state, because when we talk about the federal government, you have the local government, you have the state government, you have the federal government, but there's too much power that is concentrated on. For example, can you imagine the Inspector General of Police giving a command in Abuja to the Commissioner of Police in Lagos? It's too far away from Lagos. It's too far away. The governor does not have control over the Commissioner of Police
So
because he reports directly to the Inspector General of Police. So when people talk about restructuring, it's important for us moving forward. And if you recall, one of the issues that has been in the front burner is the issue of community policing. Now, if we have community police that was born and brought up in the area, that lives in the neighborhood, he knows the troublemaker.
But they said there are fears of such agencies being hijacked, by state executives beginning to use those community policing and state policing to advance their own personal agenda. So that's the fear.
Even the one we have now, are they not being used or being hijacked? I'm throwing it to you. If you have money now, you can write to the IGP. It gives you 6 or 7 policemen to be guiding you, to be escorting you. Is that not it? Private citizens even use police to terrorize fellow citizens because they have the money, they have the resources. We live in an authoritarian society.
So do we need to improve? Do we need to improve the current system of government that we operate in, or do we need to overhaul the entire system?
It's important for us to restructure, and that's why when this post Black Tuesday, I said we need 3 R's. We need to restructure, we need to reform, and then we need to rebuild. Moving forward, we need to restructure governance. Not governance. Take some of the responsibility of federal government and give it to the state, and take some of the responsibility of the state and give it to the local government. Should I tell you one thing? As far as 1999 Constitution is concerned, there's no place for local government. Even some local government, they've never had an election since the one we had in 1998. Local government is not in existence. The local government exists at the whims and the caprices of the governor and the state House of Assembly. And if you say government, democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So the people should have a say in who governs them. Whereas, in most cases, the local government chairman is picked by somebody far away from the community. And there's no uniformity concerning the local government structure across the nation. Even the State House of Assembly have become an appendage of the State Executive Council. There's a need for us to restructure. There's the need for us to look at the model of governance that we have. For example, the British gave us police. Do the British have a unitary police force? You have the Manchester Police, you have the Lancashire Police, you have different units of different police. And for us to do the same thing the same way and expect to get a different result, according to Zig Ziglar, is the beginning of insanity. When people talk about the need for us to restructure our system of governance, then we know what we are talking about. When people talk that we need to reduce the cost of governance, we know what we are talking about. There's too much power in the executive, but majority of us focus on the legislature. There's too much power in the executive. Too much power. So there is the need for us moving forward to reduce the cost of governance. There is the need for us to pay attention to the characters of people that we have in our court system, in our judicial system. Who are the people that are going to the Supreme Court, for example, to the Federal High Court, for example, to the appeal courts, for example? Because in democracy, there are 3 tiers of
government.
You have
the executive, legislature, and judiciary.
And they are meant to serve as checks and balances.
For themselves, yeah.
For themselves. So, if something is wrong with the structure, you need to check the foundation.
Now, in order for us to achieve these results, do we need to have another confirm? We know one was done at the time of the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, where Nigerians, representatives from different parts of the country came together and said, okay, if we begin to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, perhaps we can begin to change the narrative of the country. Do we need another such sitting, or it's more of an implementation of what has already been discussed?
Even the structure we have, and that's why I told you that the court comes in. One of the things we have not done effectively is to challenge the actions of the executive and the judiciary at the executive and the legislature at the courts, based on the fact that there's a need for them to interpret the Constitution based on the letters and the spirit of the Constitution. For example, I saw something yesterday, and so I said, okay, NBC is imposing fine on so and so. I said, it's an illegal action. You can't be a judge. You can't be the accuser and a judge in your
own case.
That NBC code needs to be taken to the court. We need to test the constitutionality of that action. So these are some of the things we need to do. If you gather comfort, what we want to achieve? We have elected people in the National Assembly. There are ways, manners, and procedure they could go about to do constitutional amendments to deal with some of these issues which we have spoken about. We have the party structure and the party system. I'm from Lagos. I remember when Lagos was part of the opposition and Lagos created local government, and the local government was not recognized by the government at the center. There was nothing that was not said by my people in Lagos. Now Lagos has been part and parcel of the government at the center. Nothing has been done to those local governments that were created. I get my point.
I dig.
When it suits the political class, they are like chameleon. They change the color of their skin based on the mood of the moment.
Now, in as much as I want us to carry on with the conversation around restructuring, but then again, we also need to look at the state of the nation. We are experiencing what many are calling an awakening of the youth in Nigeria. How can young people now better channel this new renewed energy in engaging with the government in order to bring about a new Nigeria, sort of?
Let me just do a recitation of the second stanza of our national anthem, and you see how instructive that second stanza is, and you now know why our political class don't have the patience for us to recite the national anthem, the second stanza of the national anthem, at all state function, and I stand to be challenged by anybody. In actual sense, you see them, they're always in a hurry, and they are not interested in you reciting this second stanza of the national anthem, because it's an indictment of them, and it's a reawakening for, oh God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right. Why do you think it's in the national anthem? Guide our leaders right. You know the next line?
Help our youth and truth to know.
Help our youth and truth to know. Because you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. So they keep the youth in perpetual ignorance, but social media has changed the landscape. The youth are now conscious of our leaders not following a noble cause, of our leaders not doing the right thing. Now, because help are you the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow. What do political class sow? They sow division based on tribe, based on religion, based on other sentiment. They make us to fight one another, because while we are busy fighting one another, they can make a way with the commonwealth of the nation. The day Nigerians are united in love and honesty, will grow.
Do you think that day has come?
Yeah, we are getting there, because they try to do that with the protest. They try to do that. When people say, oh, it took ethnic dimension. No, for example, I stay in a particular area that was very, very volatile during this crisis. I stay not too far from Fagba. And I tell you this, I put it in perspective. I told my colleague, I'm bringing my ram from Katsina, from Kano. All the way, I've traveled all the way down to Fagba. I'm looking at Abattoir in front of me. I'm almost gotten to my final destination. And you stopped me from going to deliver the rams that have traveled hundreds of... It's economic interest. It is not... So I told my friends, I said, no, the issue is not religious or ethnic. It's about economic interest. That was what inspired what you have seen. It's economic interest.
A lot of people thought what happened at Fagba was more of a tribal...
No, it's economic. It's because people don't think deeper. And that's our own responsibility as journalists, our own responsibility as analysts. It's economic interest. It's about survival. Are you getting my point? And it's about the state not... Look, when it's easier for us to hear 50,000 police have been mobilized to Edo State for election. 60,000 police have been mobilized for Ondo election. When that curfew was to be imposed, why can't we have 60,000 police in Lagos? When we want to have elections, you will see military being deployed in strategic locations. Why didn't we have that?
But you just made reference to what played out at Fagba, because at iBrandTV we did a coverage at what happened that played out at Fagba. You've mentioned that it's more of an economic...
It was inspired by economic.
Yeah, but then again, putting that into context, do you think the average Nigerian, Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa individuals have the capacity to...
Why did that play out in Alabarago? As a journalist, we are the conscience of the society. We are the custodian of the truth. We are meant to interpret issues in such a way that people will make an understanding of what happened. Why didn't it happen in Alabarago, if it's ethnic? Why didn't it happen in Ketu and
where you also have like a metropolitan?
Why did it happen in Dokpemu Agege axis? Why didn't that happen in Idiaraba?
Do these places have equal convergence of multi-ethnic
I'm
individuals?
throwing it to you, yeah. Why? Why? I'm throwing it to you. He said you will know the truth and the truth will make you. Are you getting my point? It was purely, who are those that are involved in the movement of cows, goats, animal husbandry? Who are those?
Dr. Jide Johnson, we're almost getting to the close of the program, and I would like us to quickly look at another conversation that is also making the headlines, which has to do with the finding of COVID-19 palliatives stashed in various warehouses in the country. But of course, we have a few bills to pay. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue the conversation with Dr. Jide Johnson on the state of the nation, restructuring, and the NSAS protest. I'll see you again.